Hello my creative critters and welcome to Sketching with Sarah. I'm Sarah and today I'm back with another Fun Fact Friday video, and today we're going to talk about some bearded dragons. I was inspired to talk about bearded dragons today because recently I've been working on an art trade with the lovely artist Oriana, and you can find her on Instagram at Oddities by Oriana. I will have her website and her Instagram linked in the description so you can go check out her work. I've been a fan of her work for a while, and she creates these beautiful pieces that include real animal bones. She makes stunning sun catchers and jewelry, and I swear to you, they all come with complimentary magic in them. I finally got my hands on one of her pieces, and it's a ring with a canine tooth from a coyote, and I am so obsessed with it. I wear it all the time. She also sent it with this pretty crystal to display it on when I'm not wearing it, and the amount of work that goes into all of her work is just next level, and I have so much respect for what she does. She still has a bunch of sun catchers and other things in her shop, so please go check out her website. I will be linking it in the description. So for this art trade, Oriana has two bearded dragons named Maui and Miso, which first of all, I love those names so much. And in this video, I will be drawing Miso. To be completely honest, I just haven't started the Maui drawing yet. I just haven't had time. So I hope you enjoy watching me draw Miso. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about the process and what you're watching first, and then we'll get into the fun facts that I just learned about bearded dragons. So first of all, I'm drawing on hot-pressed watercolor paper block by Archie's, or Arcs. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but I'll have all of my supplies as usual linked in my description if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about and exactly what I'm using. I do prefer the hot-pressed paper over the cold-pressed because it's less toothy and textured, so I can get a more technical and precise lines and marks with the watercolor. I'm going to be using watercolor pencil and water, which is my favorite way to sketch in my sketchbook, so I'm happy I got to do it for this art trade. So once I narrowed down all of the reference photos that I have of Miso to two of them, I kind of planned them out in Photoshop how I wanted to lay them out on the page. In Photoshop, I actually started with the reference photos of Maui and kind of arranged them to plan out the composition, and then I saved that as a PDF to draw from. And then I went back into that same Photoshop document and hid all of the photo layers that had Maui on it, and then I inserted the photos that I chose of Miso in the same document. Once I was happy with the layout of those photos of Miso, I saved that as another PDF, but I failed to rename that file that I saved with just Miso photos on it. So it ended up getting saved with the name Maui, so I got confused and I started drawing them as if it was Maui, and I even drew the name and everything, and I drew it in red, even though I was supposed to draw Maui in red and Miso in purple. It's kind of embarrassing. I literally drew Maui's name with the drawings that were clearly of Miso, and as soon as I realized this, I completely panicked. But I think I was able to correct it nicely, and my plan was to draw Maui in red and Miso in purple, and luckily I hadn't added water yet, so it was pretty easy to just erase over the whole thing, and then go over it again and re-add the purple pigment into it with the purple watercolor pencil. And it's like nothing happened, okay? Everything is fine. Oriana, if you're watching this, I knew what I was doing all along, and it's fine, I swear. It's a little behind-the-scenes secret. So once I sketched out Mr. Miso and sneakily fixed the text to say Miso instead of Maui, I used my water brush pen to blend out the pigments and add that watercolor element into the drawing. And after I was happy with that, I went back in with a freshly sharpened watercolor pencil and added line art to put it all together. So that's the process that you'll be seeing while I share these cool fun facts that I learned about bearded dragons. First, I want to talk about a fun fact that I learned about Miso specifically, and that is that he loves blueberries. He loves them over any other fruit or food that he's given. He always gravitates toward blueberries, and I think that's so cute. Another quirk that Miso has is that he hates Oriana's cat and will chase him if he gets the chance to. It got to the point that she had to cover halfway up his enclosure so he doesn't see her cat anymore. Miso must be fearless if he thinks he can take on a cat. But anyway, the first fact that I wanted to share with you that I learned about bearded dragons is that they can climb trees. Bearded dragons are mostly land dwellers, but they are technically semi-arboreal and can be great tree climbers if needed. So if they can't find food on the ground, they can climb trees to look for some, or when they're being pursued by a predator, they can just climb up a tree to escape. Since they are also avid sunbaskers, They can also scale trees to find a good patch of sun to bask in, or to get to a higher level than another bearded dragon, which is a symbol of dominance. The bearded dragon that I am drawing here, Miso, is particularly a climby boy, and I guess of all 5 bearded dragons that Oriana has had, she said she's never seen one do as much climbing around as Miso does. And maybe he's always just trying to get higher than Maui to assert dominance. Or maybe he is just Miso doing typical Miso things. Another fun fact that I learned about bearded dragons is that they wear their emotions on their chin. The iconic beard on a bearded dragon goes black when they are threatened or feel stressed or aroused. And during these emotions, the bearded dragon can expand and puff up its entire body to look big. But when they are happy and calm and chilling, their beard and chin will be similar to the color of its body, and the spines will rest flat to its skin. So the photos that I chose to draw of Miso, he is being pretty chill and happy and just hanging out. Another cool thing that I learned about bearded dragons is that they can regrow their teeth. A lot of reptiles have the ability to regrow their teeth, but bearded dragons are cool because they have both polyphyodont and monophyodont teeth, even on the same jawline. And if you're like me and you're like, what is that? A polyphyodont is an animal whose teeth are continuously replaced and have several or many sets of teeth in succession. Monophyodont teeth is when a set of teeth come in and don't get replaced, so once they're gone, they don't grow back. For reference, us humans are diphyodont, which, by the way, I hope I'm saying these words correctly, I'm not exactly sure, but diphyodont means that we get 2 successive sets of teeth known as deciduous or deciduous and permanent teeth. So bearded dragons have both the kind of teeth that regrow indefinitely, or at least several and many times, and also the kind of teeth that once it's gone, it's gone. The next thing that I want to talk about is that female bearded dragons can store sperm for later. Bearded dragons can lay 2 clutches of about 11 to 30 eggs per season after having mated only once. Females have a really cool ability to be able to store the sperm alive in their reproductive tracts and then fertilize the eggs all by themselves so long as the sperm was put to use within the same breeding period. This allows the female to maximize offspring while minimizing mating. Male bearded dragons often mate violently by biting the female's neck, and I love this about the female bearded dragons because they're basically like, yeah, I want to have kids, but I don't want much to do with the father, like just donate and leave, I got this, thanks. She don't need you around to hurt her, okay? You go, girl. Anyway, another adorable thing about bearded dragons is that they communicate with nods and waves. Although the reason for these motions isn't completely understood, experts do believe that the waving is a symbol of submission to a dominant individual. The head bobbing is like a sign of dominance, and it's also exhibited by both sexes to initiate mating. So if you ever see a lizard head bobbing at you, they're either trying to be dominant or they just think you're fine. The next thing I learned about bearded dragons is that they can run super speedy if they need to. Bearded dragons' top speed is believed to be about 9 miles per hour, and these lizards rarely run that fast and live mostly sedentary lifestyles overall. But if you spook one and it feels threatened enough, it'll actually raise up on its rear legs and run really fast like a human, and let me tell you, this is the cutest, silliest thing that I've seen all week, so I will definitely insert a clip here for you to see what I'm talking about. This doesn't really help them run faster away from the predators, but it does help them run further, because as they're running, the air kind of pushes against their body and cools them down faster while they run. I found that super interesting. While I was down that rabbit hole, I also learned that apparently bearded dragons have 3 eyes. What? They have 2 primary eyes to see images like our eyes, and then they also have one parietal eye located at the top of their head, and it doesn't see images, but it is an optical lobe at the top of their head that can sense shadows and changes in light. In the wild, their main predator is a hawk, and when a hawk swoops down to grab the beardy, this animal can sense the change in light from the hawk's shadow and run away. And I think that's just so fascinating to me that they have a built-in sensor. It just blows my mind. It's crazy stuff like this that I learn about animals and how they've evolved that's so fascinating to me, and it just makes so much sense. And it's crazy because us humans create technology to have these motion sensing lights or motion sensing paper towel dispensers in public bathrooms. And bearded dragons just casually have a natural sensor on the back of their head for a very specific reason, to sense changes of light. And that's just crazy to me. Okay, so the last but not the least thing that I want to share with you today is definitely the most bizarre thing about bearded dragons, in my opinion, is that they pee a powder. When I read about this, I had to read it a couple of times, and I have confirmed with Oriana that they do in fact pee little beads, and if you touch it or crush it, it is like a powder. And that is just so interesting to me, and the reason for it just makes a lot of sense. Bearded dragons release uric acid in the forms of a white powder or chalky paste called urate, and bearded dragons have evolved to do this as a means of retaining water in the hot, dry Australian wild. And it makes sense that urinating liquid would be a waste of a lot of water, so it's pretty cool that they've evolved to be able to save so much liquid, even from their pee. So on that note, that's all the fun things that I wanted to share with you and what I learned about bearded dragons. I hope you learned something new about these lizards, and I hope you liked watching me draw Miso. A huge thank you to Oriana for inspiring me to learn about bearded dragons. I probably wouldn't have if it weren't for this art trade. I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to draw these little family members. I do want to take a moment and talk about something that is really important about bearded dragons, and that is that a lot of people think they're an easy pet to have. Like, you just buy the lizard, put it in a tank, and it's good to go. But there's so much more that goes into taking proper care of these bearded beauties, and just to get the bare minimum to care for your bearded dragon, it costs about $800 just to get started, and it's not something to take on if you don't have the means to. Lots of people think that bearded dragons are the easier reptile to have, maybe because their care requirements are less often, but in reality they aren't really that easy to take care of in a person's home, and they have a lot of really specific needs. I've personally never owned a bearded dragon before, so I am by no means an expert, but I will link an article I found on the pros and cons of owning a bearded dragon, just as a starting point if you're thinking about getting a bearded dragon. Like with any type of pet, it's so important to do your research before you decide to own any animal. I'm super passionate about this subject because so many people don't do the research and think it's just a cool or cute or fun thing to have around the house. And then these animals just end up getting discarded, and when people realize that it's not what they thought it was, to be able to take proper care of the animal. For example, poor Miso was rescued by Oriana and was previously kept in the same tank as a snake, which is a huge no-no. Miso is so happy now, and I encourage everyone to adopt or rescue rather than buying animals whenever possible. It's so sad that a lot of people just don't care to educate themselves before taking on an animal, or they just don't care in general but thought it would be a cool pet to have, and in the end it's always the animal that suffers, and it breaks my heart. I could go on and on about this topic, but I just think it's such an important conversation to have. I'm really passionate about animals, and I'm constantly learning new things and discovering new animals that I've never heard of before all the time. YouTube is a nice place for me to be able to combine my passion for animals through my other passion, art, and that's why I started YouTube in the first place. So I can have a little corner on the internet where I can just rant endlessly about animals and art, and if you want to stick around and listen, feel free to subscribe because I'd love to have you here. I upload a new video here every Friday, and if I miss an upload, I will let you know ahead of time in my community tab. If you made it this far, please leave this video a like if you liked it, and leave a comment to let me know what you think, or what animals I should talk about next. I recently discovered an animal that absolutely blows my mind, and I'm very excited to make a video about it soon. I'll give you a one-word hint. Cinderella. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and being here. It means a lot to me. Stay creative, and I will see you in next Friday's video. For reference, us humans are diphyodont. Diphyodont?